Hello and welcome to Speedcubing 101. This is Cube Mom and I am on a new microphone. I'll explain why in a little bit. I hope you are keeping well and settling into the routines as school has started, and so have lessons and all of that. Last weekend, I was in Kent, Washington for a competition. And during Pyraminx, Cailyn Hoover, who's the regional delegate, she's also the creator of the website competitiongroups.com. She spent some time right there at the data entry table to share for Speedcubing 101 how she got into cubing, how she's created cubing communities both online and offline. I was thinking I could bring my one microphone and then use the competition's microphone. But at this Kent competition, there was a wireless mic, which wasn't going to work for my setup to record. So Cailyn and I were shuffling this microphone back and forth. And that is why I now have a brand new second microphone, because now I know I may need this when there is a wireless mic at a competition. Now, like I say, this was recorded at the data entry table, so you're going to hear some of the things that happen there. A young cuber who is judging comes over to ask if judging is done. You'll also hear in the background, I think, Rainier, another delegate, calling up judges, needing judges. If you haven't been to a competition, this gives you a little bit of what it's like. So here's my chat with Pacific Northwest Regional Delegate Cailyn Hoover. Welcome to Speedcubing 101. Today, I am in Kent, Washington at a competition. It is September 7th, 2024, and I have sitting next to me Cailyn Hoover, who I need to thank. She has helped me so much with learning a lot of the tasks behind the scenes and during competition so that I can help out in British Columbia, where I am. And Cailyn's a delegate. She's also the regional delegate in the Pacific Northwest. I'm so happy she's here today to share with us how she got into cubing and tips from the delegate's point of view. So thank you for joining me, Cailyn.
Hello.
How did you get started with cubing? Let's hear it.
All right. I've always been a nerdier person. I'm a software engineer now, but I've been programming for years and years. I like to collect skills such as coding and graphic design, etc. I figured solving a cube would be a fun skill to have, so I just bought one and learned how to do it. And then I realized I liked doing it and kept doing it. And I very quickly found online communities and started meeting other people who also liked doing it as much as I did.
So where were these online communities?
Reddit. Reddit was the very first place that I went to, but the community is also very big on Facebook. And so those are the heart of the cubing community, specifically Facebook. And that's just where everyone's at.
And what about Discord now? Where does that fit in?
Discord came a year after Reddit. From Reddit, we created an official Skype group. That lasted for a year. It kept lasting, but we replaced it with Discord. Discord came around in 2015. We started the Skype group in 2014, so we were like, oh, Discord, that's cool. And so we just migrated it there. I was leading up the Skype group, me and a couple of others, and we brought it to Discord. And Discord is very easy to bring people in. So the server that I fostered now has 13,000 people in it. And I've just, through that, been able to reach so many people.
And what do you talk about on Discord?
People talk about everything. I have no idea what most people talk about, but you talk about cubing, records, times, how to solve, how other people solved. You learn new things. You talk about unrelated things. You talk about, in a cubing server, you talk about coding. You talk about stuff that you're working on. You talk about coding about cubing. You talk about competitions and where worlds might happen. You talk about everything.
Can the judges leave now?
Talk to the person in white shirt.
So that's how you got into cubing and to the discussion groups around cubing. But I know you've also helped outside of delegating. You've created competitiongroups.com, which we use in BC. We're using today at this competition. Actually, why don't you tell us more?
Yeah, I started going to competitions 2 years after I started cubing. I started going to competitions in 2016. I've been helping with stuff ever since my very first competition. I ended up scrambling for some of the rounds at my very first competition, and my third competition, I just started staying with the delegates that were putting on the competition. So I just very quickly found myself immersed in everything about competitions. I think quickly I found myself more in love with competitions than cubing. 2016, don't get me wrong, I was cubing, but I was starting to grow more fond of competitions. I'd be helping every single one of them. When you're a 20-something person, you can't really connect with most of the community, so you end up on the other side of the tables, the side where all the people who are putting it on the event are. And I also found myself there the night before helping set up, so I just very quickly found myself immersed in all of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Later that year, I was enjoying competitions so much. The very first website I made was for fantasy cubing. There was a fantasy cubing that existed in 2014. I found it so interesting that I made my own, and we did it for almost a whole year. I got 130 people to do it the first week or two, and then it very quickly died off as people learned it was actually too much work the way that I made it.
Fantasy cubing. So what was it? You pick out of a pool of competitors who's going to finish where?
Okay, so and keep in mind, this is 2017, so it was very hard. We didn't have things like everyone wasn't registering on the WCA website. Everyone was registering on different websites. And so every week, I tasked people with finding all of the best people that were competing that weekend. So people had to do this every week. They found all the best people that were competing on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And you had to go to Cubing China, Cubing India, Cubing Poland. You had to go to all these different websites, translate it, try to find the best people. You could pick 10 people. You picked them from different events. You picked like one 3x3 person, and then one 4x4 person, one 2x2 person, 10 people, and you got their points for that event. And so for all-rounders, you had to pick like the best person. If you wanted to win, you would go to these Polish websites and the Chinese websites, and you would translate it, and you would try to figure out who was competing. It would be much easier now if I was to do it all over again. But that was how I got into software. In 2018, I started getting into delegating competitions. I became a delegate in 2018, and I realized that there was a need for software. The very first website I made was just a tool to help myself read the regulations and guidelines all in one document, all in one page, and it became so popular that everyone on the regulations committee started using it.
We're looking for judges on both stages, especially the green stage. Thank you.
In 2022, I found that I was tired of trying to generate our groups for the competitions with spreadsheet software. So I made my own software for generating groups, and it became popular enough that lots and lots of people all over the US and all over the world are using it to this day. And it's only so useful. It helps you generate scorecards, but I realized that it'd be way more helpful if everyone could see this data that people were generating. So I made competitiongroups.com to make it very accessible for people to find their groups, find what they're doing. And today in 2024, over 100,000 people have logged into the website just in the past year.
And that includes me before this competition. I actually printed it out from competitiongroups.com so that my cuber would know what to do, when to do it, where to be, and all of that. And so, Cailyn, what led you to become a delegate?
So I found myself helping out so much that my mentor, Kit Clement, the person I was learning all of this stuff from, he was tired of driving all the way to the east side of Washington from Portland. He saw a need, and he found someone who was in a position to fill that need.
So, Cailyn, right now, the Pacific Northwest has a ton of competitions just in the next 3 months, and you have a strong team of delegates. But I understand it didn't start out that way when you first became a delegate. So how has the community grown here so that it's become such a, in a lot of ways, oiled machine?
There was one active delegate in Washington when I became a delegate. We had Kit Clement, who did 90% of the work in Portland. We had a delegate who was able to help keep our competitions going, working with Matthew Dickman as an organizer, not as a delegate. He started off as an organizer, as all great delegates do. When I became a delegate, the community in Washington wasn't as big. We had one delegate, and that was enough to keep up with demand, and then demand grew. We got 2 delegates, and then demand just kept growing. We got 3 delegates. We added Matthew Dickman. He became a delegate, and then it was me and Matthew being active in 2019. And then COVID happened. Demand kind of sank. But in late 2021, competitions started coming back. When Matthew moved to California from Washington, we nominated Peter Preston to take over. But after COVID, demand was very high and supply was very low. And so when Matthew left, he also made me the region lead. And I saw a need. I saw very high demand and very low supply. And I recruited more and more delegates to help meet the demand. We had competitions that were over 100 people with a 40-person wait list.
So now when you say you're recruiting, you are also training these delegates. And now how many do you have?
So we have 11 delegates. We have 7 in Washington and 4 in Oregon. Some of them we imported.
That's a lot of growth in a short time.
It is a lot of growth. COVID had very high demand that it took us like a year and a half to sustain. All those delegates, they weren't homegrown. Some came in. I think we've had 2 delegates move to the area. I used all the help we could get to meet this very high demand.
So what helps make a cubing community so strong? Like, you've got all these delegates. They're all at work, at volunteer work, I should say, with these competitions. How are you coordinating all this?
A cubing community is nothing without people. Every delegate, every organizer was just a person. Organizers, they were just cubers. Delegates, they were just organizers. And before that, they were just cubers. There are parents today who are delegates and organizers. And some, they lead regional organizations. They all start off as people. They're people who just want to help. And it's very much about who you know, not what you know. If you show a passion, if you show an interest in competitions, in cubing, and wanting to see your own community grow, then you step up, you help out. You put on a competition, you put on enough competitions, you become a delegate, you become very invested in the community. Or you're a parent, you just wanted something for your kids to do, so you put on meetups. It is the community that helps the community grow.
Now, let's hear how many competitions you've been in and any of your favorite memories during those competitions.
This is my 97th competition that I've competed at. Tomorrow's going to be my 98th, and next week will be my 99th. I've done a lot at these competitions. One of my competitions, we did dodge cubing. So we were in a gym, much like the gym that we're in today. And after everything, after awards, we had the venue for a bit more time. We had dodgeballs. This was not the first time that's ever happened. And I really hope that it's not the last. We played dodgeball. We laid all the dodgeballs along the line. But we also placed cubes along the line. No, we did not throw the cubes at each other. Whenever you got someone out with a dodgeball, if you solved a cube, you got someone on your team that was out in. And if anyone has access to a gym and dodgeballs, and in 2024, probably waivers, it's so much fun. Another one of my memories, Oregon 2016. It was a 2-day competition in a mall. It was a state championship before state championships were a thing. We were in a mall, and in between the days, we locked up our equipment in an empty storefront, vacant storefront. And the next morning, we couldn't get into it. The security guard was supposed to unlock it. And Matthew Dickman lockpicked his way into it. Here, we were thinking, do we need to take timers from competitors and to try to put on a competition? But no, Matthew got his way into the room and saved the day. Another one of my favorite memories, I did a competition in Yakima. We had this kid who didn't know how to compete. He was doing 4x4, and it was clear to Matthew and I that he did not really know how to solve a 4x4. It turns out his parents brought him to a competition to prove that he didn't know what he was doing. And it started off sad. We had to disqualify the competitor because he didn't know how to solve it. But the kids, the competitors that came, stepped up and they taught this person how to solve a 3x3. And he is still competing to this day. The final memory I'll mention, just back in June, Northwest Championships 2024. It's the largest competition that we've done in the Northwest outside of NATS 2016. And my favorite moment is just watching 3x3 finals, mainly the whole Sunday. The schedule and the groups that Adam Walker and I, hours and hours into, happened successfully. And we had such a large crowd watching our finals, cheering. And I was just elated seeing all of the hard work pay off.
Thank you, Cailyn. Before I ask my next question for you, I'm going to ask Amanda to hop in on here. If you've been to a competition, there is a person by Cailyn's side who is basically an anchor for the competition, doing all the data entry so the delegates can do their part without having to do that part. Amanda, can you share some of your favorite memories from all the competitions you've been to?
Hello. I don't know if I have very specific memories like Cailyn does, but I love the community and I love coming here and just seeing all the kids light up when they get PRs or just get so excited over things. So I just like being here around all the people and gossiping at the data entry table over here all the time with our delegate friends. And it's such a fun time and it's so nice, and getting to enter in all these times for people so that no one else has to worry about it is really nice. And I like to be able to take workload off of people. And I'm also competitive in my own sense, so I don't cube, but I do like to try to see if I can be the best data entry person. So that's why I do data entry at most of the competitions that I'm at. And I actually have a little feud with another data entry person. His name is Edward Hollandale, and we beef a little bit because he has a personal record for most scorecards entered in a calendar day, and I have the personal record for most scorecards entered in a 24-hour period. And he had to make that denotion because he got mad at me that I beat his record at Sleepless in Seattle, which is technically over 2 business days. He's an Australian cuber, so we got beef, ongoing beef from different nations. We're trying to make it a worldwide thing, apparently, of who's the best data entry person.
Only in the World Cube Association do you have ongoing beef and competition within the data entry world. And Cailyn, just to wrap it up, because we are just finishing up, I think, Pyraminx. What are your wishes and dreams for the WCA?
I just wish that the WCA keeps doing what it's doing. It has a fantastic set of people at its helm. One of them, a board member, is here today. It's got a passionate crew of people working on the finance, software, regulations, integrity, and so much more. It has a great number of programs to support organizations worldwide. The WCA will keep getting bigger, and soon enough will hopefully be big enough to start recruiting more paid staff to help run it. Grassroots is fun and all, but at some point, you just get too big for grassroots.
Thank you, Cailyn.
Thank you.
Thank you to Cailyn and Amanda. And yes, they do take data entry very seriously. If ever there is a DNF on a scorecard, the shortcut button is the /, and Cailyn and Amanda have a custom-made button that says DNF instead of /. I've asked Cailyn for the link to the Discord server that she mentioned. I will also link to competitiongroups.com. It's an incredibly useful site. I use it for every competition to know where my cuber needs to be when he is competing, when he is judging, and what stage, if applicable, he is to be on.
Here's your Cube News update.
So for our Cube News today, if you are in British Columbia, we have a new delegate. His name is Alex Mutch, Mutch, and he is, as Cailyn would say, an import. Alex is from Alberta. He is now in the Cariboo region of British Columbia. So welcome, Alex. We hope we're as good to you as the cubers in Alberta are. As I mentioned, I was at the Kent competition, and I just want to give you some of the results. There were 145 competitors at this competition. Some of these I will name just the names. Some of them I will give you the times. There were 4 events for Pyraminx. In third, Mahir Rai. Second, Ash Black. And first, Vikram Halder. In 4x4, third place, Vikram Halder. In second, Jose Miguel Valdez Rodriguez. And in first, Jonathan Truchot. I apologize to anyone and everyone if I mispronounce your name on this episode or any episode of Speedcubing 101. In 2x2, in third place, Ishan Bansal. I happened to be judging Ishan in the 2x2 final, and his friends were madly calculating his times to see if he was going to podium for this. When they figured out that he was going to be third, his friends tried to do one of those celebratory hoist your friend up, carry them around the room. It was a good attempt, a good try. And I know Ishan will be on the podium for many events to come, and his friends will have more practice at trying to lift him up to celebrate. Second place for 2x2, Ash Black. And first place for 2x2, Ron G. Arama. For the 3x3 cube final, in third place, Ash Black with a best time of 6.69 and an average of 8.36. Second place, Michael Lee with a best of 7.19 and an average of 8.24. And in first place for Kent Summer 2024 in the 3x3, Jonathan Truchot with a best of 7.83 and an average of 8.06. Congratulations to all the competitors, new and returning, and to all the Cuber supporters that got them there, got them fed, got them home. I want to share here. I apologize if I have like morning voice. It's 7:30 a.m. and Cuber is competing at 8 a.m. So I am wrapping this up soon. A couple more pieces for today's Cube news. One is, and credit again to Yuli, she is on top of things. A month ago on Reddit, about 20 people have been working for a while to put together the ultimate 3x3 guide. I will link to it in the show notes. One of the contributors is Kyle Santucci, who my Cuber has met and taken a photo with. But if you're looking to improve your 3x3 times, I will link to it in the show notes. They also have a comprehensive hardware guide, which is their recommendations for the best hardware, both official and unofficial. My Cuber's been asking for an FTO. I don't know if the sponsor will be selling at this comp that we're at, but that seems like the next one on his list. And the last piece of our Cube news today isn't new, although it is new to some people. And so I wanted to mention that the World Championships, which are every other year, will be in 2025 in Seattle, Washington, in America, July 3rd to 6th. Again, the World Cubing Championships will be in Seattle, Washington on July 3rd to 6th in 2025. I say this because we were sharing a table at the last competition in Kent, and I was chatting with the mom, Ada. Hi, Ada. Her Cuber's 13 and at his third competition, and she didn't know about Worlds at all and that it is in Seattle. I also say this because one of the scramblers at the event, he is a Cuber who has been out of the game for 5 years and just coming back. And so I was chatting with him and I mentioned something about Worlds and he didn't know either. So I thought it is not a bad idea to just mention it here. I will also try to find out more about the registration process. There are 4 phases. I will link to the information on the Cubing USA website. It is not a lot now, so as they are adding information, hopefully I can get one of the organizers on here at Speedcubing 101. But for now, I have to get my Cuber to his competition. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you, Cailyn and Amanda, for your time. Happy cubing and go Cubers go.